Thank you, Christina, and welcome everybody. Welcome, Angela. Thank you so much for being here with us today. I just wanted to introduce Angela. So she's a wellness enthusiast from Natural Grocers today, joining us. She offers a deep understanding of what contributes to our physical health, emotional health, spiritual health. She graduated twice from the Southwest Institute of Healing Arts in Arizona with a degree in mind, body wellness and holistic nutrition. She's continued to further her education at the National Academy of Sports Medicine, where she obtained certifications in sports nutrition and behavior modification. And today she will be presenting on Detoxification 101. Thank you so much, Angela. I will hand it over to you to begin.
Hi, yeah, so great. Thank you for the introduction. That's awesome. Yes, my name's Angela, and I'm a multi-specialty holistic nutrition practitioner. And today we're going to be talking about Detoxification 101, just the basics, the functions. Now, moving right along, just to let you guys know that the class, of course, is not intended to, diagnose, treat, mitigate, we're just here to learn. So Natural Grocers, for people who may not know what Natural Grocers is a grocery store that I believe there are 236, and there are more opening from basically the Midwest area, and the company started in Colorado. So this company is definitely all about grassroots. I could definitely share at least a good hour of information on all of the qualities this company carries, but we're just going to focus briefly on the 5 founding principles, which are focusing on nutrition education. Natural Grocers provides free coaching sessions for an hour, free nutrition coaching sessions. Every Natural Grocers should have a nutritional manager, a nutritional health coach, and basically we provide that, free classes, any way we can outreach to the community and provide nutrition education. With that being said, because we believe in educating our customers, we want to also ensure the highest quality standards on just not even our products, but what we expect from our employees as well. Everyday affordable prices. I hear a lot in the aisles that our supplements are some of the most affordable around, and we've got some good deals going on. Supporting the local community, of course, that is part of my role on top of the free nutrition programs that we carry. And then, of course, we do have some pretty great employees. So what's going on with detox? Why is detox such a trending word? To be honest, I'm not a big fan of the word detox because I think it gets a little convoluted, but the body within balance, can take care of itself. But we're exposed to so many different things. And, just in this past 70 years, we've been exposed to 80,000 chemicals. So think about that. These things weren't around or made, these compounds were combined together, and now we're exposed to those consequences, right? So 80,000 chemicals, that's a lot for our bodies to handle. And what a lot of people may not understand is it's not just what we're consuming. It's not just what we're adding onto the skin. We have to remember our body is a force of just chemical reactions, right? Just like we have to eliminate, right? So do our cells. Our cells also pass away, they die. So we have to eliminate those, right? Through urine, through bowel movement. So when we're talking about chemical soup, when we're talking about detoxing, just remember that a lot of these physical reactions, we create a lot of toxins within ourselves. And then, oh my gosh, you add 80,000 chemicals. That's a lot, right? So according to the Environmental Working Group, researchers have found that on an average, can you believe that? 200 industrial chemical pollutants were found in 10 babies' umbilical cords. Do you know for women specifically that wear makeup that a study showed over 200 chemicals just in being a woman, right? So pretty interesting. Now, daily body burdens. Okay, now that we know, hey, we make a lot of stuff on our own that needs to be eliminated, our own toxins, right? So now we're adding more of the burden, right? Now we're exposing ourselves to stuff we're putting on our skin, right? Those daily environmental toxins. So we've got those health beauty products, we've got those pesticides, right? Now we're talking about ingestion. Unless you do work outside or with a company that farms, mold, you have an array of pollutants, even on our cookware. So how much is our exposure, right? How long are we being exposed? Sometimes we're not going to be able to answer all these questions. And like I was mentioning a few slides ago, what's the synergistic relationship with not only the chemical compound itself, but when they're mixed together? I'm going to give an example of a pesticide called DDT, and it's a long name, and no, I apologize, I cannot remember. But DDT was a pesticide that was banned in the 70s, I believe in 74. Okay, I was born in 84, and the likeliness of me taking a urine test and having that found in my urine is about 75%. So when we're dealing with chemicals, the problem is you're throwing around these words like detox. Our body may not be able to know how to get rid of them. When we are exposed to chemicals, sometimes the body cannot get rid of them. So just like DDT, that's an example because, the earth can't get rid of it. We can't get rid of it. So it just kind of rolls around in our bodies and it rolls around in our ecosystem. So, are these questions even important? How long is the exposure? The important thing is our body working in balance? But even more importantly, can we even get rid of these chemicals? So supporting this pathway, right? Supporting these pathways, we have 6 different pathways, right? And then we have several different mechanisms like our lymph nodes, we sweat to, detox, to organically detox. So internally, right, we talked about these byproducts from our cells. Now we're talking about the external, right? So, oh my gosh, what is our body left to do, right? So detoxification really is going to come down to, our organs. So the first organ here is going to be the gut, right? But when we're talking about the gut, we're not just talking about the stomach here, we're talking about the whole alimentary tract, right? So the gut's the first line of defense, and the stomach acid in our stomach mainly will help to get rid of a lot of different things. But really, it's going to come down to the liver, which we're going to talk about more in depth. So, when we're talking about the gut, again, we're moving on to the intestines. So along the intestines, especially the intestines, that area is so special because it has its own unique microbiome and microorganisms, and the small intestines really can't have overgrowth. When we're talking about the colon's a little bit different, but you surely don't want to see the bacteria in the colon in the small intestines. But you could get away with seeing some of the bacteria in the small intestines in the large colon, right? And the large colon's meant to be a little disgusting, if you will. It's meant to be our trash can. We need those really gross bacteria. So, now we're getting to the liver. Now, I'm going to just pause for 1 second and give some really neat information about the liver. The liver is the king of organs. Well, why is that? Because the liver can break down fat-soluble toxins. I'm going to say that one more time. The liver can break down fat-soluble toxins. But with the liver, not only does he do that, but he does all these things listed here, right? So again, we're going back to that balance. How are we feeding our organs? How are our organs working in balance? So if we can metabolize something that is is something that would be considered a toxin? How would we remove that? So the liver, mainly has 3 different pathways. And those pathways are what break down those fat soluble toxins into water soluble. So phase 1, I like to use, even though it seems like a strange analogy, I like to use a vase. Okay, so phase 1, we put a vase in our liver. Okay, why? Because the vase itself, this fat soluble toxin itself, isn't really toxic, right? If you will. Well, the liver needs to make sure they can get through the body safely, right? So the liver breaks it up. So now we're in phase 2. Phase 2 is going to be those glass shards. So what's going on right there? Why did I have that analogy? Because now we're taking that fat and we're turning it into water. And the reason I use the glass shards is because, believe it or not, these water soluble toxins, these compounds now are actually more, they create more harm to the liver than when it was in the form of the base. So we have a lot of enzymes going on here. We have over 145,000 enzymes in the body, right? And when you're talking about the first phase, we'll go back to something called P450. And these enzymes are what break that base, right? And then you have another set of enzymes that come in for stage 2. And they kind of start breaking down that glass even more, right? So what's going on with stage 3? And this is where, if you've ever had like a liver test, doctor may kind of get a little nervous if you have high liver enzymes, and this is why. Okay, phase 3 is the most important phase, so you need to get that stuff out, right? We can't just have enzymes that eat. And toxic, now even more, right? Water soluble toxic compounds. So phase 3 comes in and molecularly, right, attaches to those water molecules. So that's kind of how your body, if you will, detoxes. So there's a lot of stuff that can mess that up, right? What if we're talking about hepatic liver? What if we're talking about inflammation, right? So, we're talking about balance, everything working properly, right? If it can be broken down. So most toxins are going to be fat soluble, right? We are going to have some that are water soluble, but turning fat soluble toxins into water soluble toxins kind of tells them to wake up, right? So it's like reactivating them. So even though the water soluble toxins, it's easier to leave the body, it's, more than the fat soluble, there's still a lot of pressure there for the water soluble to still completely be removed from the liver and then from the body. So we went into phase 1 a little bit. So phase 1 is that reaction, that toxin, and it's going to start to be excreted, right? Phase 1 reactions are the destruction, right? The breaking of the vase, really getting in there and starting to tear down those lipids, those fats, that fat toxin. So the products in phase 1 are potentially more toxic for the body, right? So that's when phase 2 comes in, and right, we have those other enzyme reactions, and that starts to neutralize. And then when we have phase 3 is those other molecules that come in, and molecularly they will hook their tails up together and they take it, remove it from the body. And this is when we dispose of it, right? In a perfect world. So how can we reduce this toxic burden? There are a lot of different ways, you guys. I mean, I can't express enough how much your food is really going to be, the big key player here when it comes to inflammation, when it comes to even your circadian rhythm, peristalsis, things that I can't talk about today, but those are movement of different kinds in your body, so, that's what it's about. Detoxing is really about movement. if you're outside exercising or you go into the gym and you're not sweating, that's a big warning sign, right? That's a sign something is definitely out of balance, right? So even though I'm going to use this basic probiotic example, it's always going to be food. How can we get that microbiome healthy? Because really, when you think about our microbiome, we have our microbiome from our great, the list goes from our, so on and so on, our grandmother. So think about us being settlers on a boat. We're rowing up to an island, okay? And these islanders come out and they start spearing us. That's what it's like when we introduce probiotics. So you start low, you start at the 30, you start at the 50. Let's say our antibiotics, we are not prescribing here, but maybe you want to do 50 or look up how that could benefit you during antibiotics. But you start low to integrate them, right? Because if we go too high and we just jump into the 100,000 billion, we're going to have diarrhea, right? Because our body sees that as a foreigner, as a pathogen. So you even need to be careful when we're opening up these pathways, if you will, if we're activating, you have to do these things very slowly. It takes a long time to kind of slow our organs down. And we don't realize it until they are. And we're like, wow, how are we getting eczema? How am I getting brain fog? All those things that we start to see. How am I slowing down? Well, because everything else is. And on a cellular level, we're drudging ourselves down with toxins. So, we talked about all these different products. We can even go into plastic food storage. I mean, you guys know the list goes on and on. My main goal here today is to talk about more of the body's functionality, really, than how we get toxins. Frankly, we know they're everywhere. I mean, even a brand new house, guys, is going to have formaldehyde. Just because you're in a brand new home, oh, those are the worst. You've got to air those out, right? So, I'm not really going to focus on that. So while it's true that one of the skin's main functions is to create a barrier between us and the outside world, it's also a breathing system. Our lungs aren't the only thing that breathe, if you will, right? And anything we put on our skin bypasses the liver since it's not being ingested. And so now we have these toxins, these chemicals that go straight to the heart, straight into the brain, but mainly, more importantly, straight into the heart. So now there's no filtration system. So our skin is so important just to take care of that barrier. What are we doing to take care of the skin? So toxins are absorbed through the skin. Also, our body tries to push toxins out through the skin when it doesn't know how to get rid of them anymore. So the skin is such an amazing contrast, isn't it? So what can we do to support? Right? So we talked a little bit about probiotics. We're going to talk about fermented foods because I am a holistic nutritionist. So on the other end, I'm going to wildly swing my pendulum to, the real form of probiotics. But, you may have that argument about the sugar content. We can't talk about it today, but there are things that you can pair with your food. Pair as in putting together that you can eat to help slow sugar, so you can always look at how to balance your meals for sure. But so we're going to look at, starches. Fiber is going to be huge, guys. Your liver loves fiber too. And also fiber helps to actually pull certain things out of the body. Fiber is a pretty slow, he loves water, right? So if you don't drink enough, he will pull it from you. So you've got to be careful about fiber. But if, healthy, hydrated individual, fiber is going to go through the body and help to just pull kind of some of those things that we really don't want in there. We can use calcium D, glucarate. We can use chlorella and green powders. Now, these items are going to be really good for the blood. Everything in the body works the kidneys, the liver, they work to keep the blood clean. Why is chlorella or chlorophyll such a big deal? Anything green? Well, molecularly, if we took chlorophyll, if we took chlorophyll, and we took our blood and we looked at the structure, the molecular structure under a microscope, you would see that it's the same. It's the same formula, except human blood has heme in the middle. That's the only difference between us and a plant, is the fact that we hold iron in the middle of our cell. So that's why, you're never going to hear anyone say don't eat enough greens. You can't not eat enough greens, and that's why. So when we're talking about, again, I hate using these trendy words, but cleaning the blood, or shall I say detoxing, and it's not a matter of just going to go get chloroform, right? We're talking about vegetables. We're talking about 5 to 7 servings a day. What would be optimal health? Okay, 7 to 10. What does it look like to have 1 serving of a vegetable? No joke, guys. Let's shut our eyes and imagine I cut half a red bell pepper. I have 6 small heads of broccoli. I have 1 big carrot, or I have 6 little baby carrots. That is 1 serving. So when we're talking about serving size, I just want everyone to get really clear with, okay, what is the minimum? What is the optimum, right? So we can actually feed our body to work properly. I'm just going to braze through these supplements, because at the end of the day, supplements are important, but they are supplements. So, I do want to express, please look up the word supplement. These things are helpful, but we're also supplementing for, in a perfect world, the theory that I am a super healthy person. And this adds to my benefit of being healthy. It doesn't replace, right? So we're going to go back to the liver here. And, I'm going to say another trend word. We've got milk thistle. Has anyone out there ever heard of this?
Running late.
That's going to be a great amino acid for the liver. And that's not the only one, right? And then we're going to have garlic. Okay, if I can tell you my personal faves, okay, I love milk thistle, but milk thistle doesn't get the liver moving. And I am by far not a herbalist, but I can tell you that yellow dock, burdock, what's another good one? Yellow dock and burdock are going to be real heavy hitters, because not only do they go in and they help to support the cells of the liver, but they get the liver moving. So now we're taking all that stuck, broken glass, right? We're actually removing it from the liver while we're starting to support cellular movement. So the liver is an amazing organ. So milk thistle is also a good one, but milk thistle doesn't get things moving as much as burdock or yellow dock, for sure. A big way that you can support your liver is through silymarin. But the biggest supporter, you guys, is going to be glutathione, which is another amino acid. Glutathione is great for tons of different things. Supports gut, supports brain, more importantly, supports gut. I really think with a lot of my studies, it supports the vagus nerve, which, just to have that connection, just to have the nervous system stay calm, is also going to be another way to continuously allow the body to just do its job, right? So when we're talking about detoxing, we're really just, in a perfect world, my body's working the way that it should, it's not getting bogged down. So when we're talking about N-acetyl cysteine, it's really good stuff. It's a free radical scavenger. It does a lot more than that in the body, but it works synergistically with glutathione. And it's just helpful in cellular reproduction of the gut. So you have to remember that we have trillions of cells, and all of these different cells have a nucleus. And all of these different nucleus are creating DNA for that cell. So my cell on my liver is going to need something different than the cell on my hand, right? And that's the same thing with our gut. So when we're talking about NAC, when we're talking about glutathione and proper cell duplication, that's what we're talking about here, is feeding those cells to work properly to, support the detoxification. So one thing about garlic, guys, I love garlic, but I'm going to give you a little helpful tip here. So I practiced nutrition for a while, and I love garlic, but throughout my studies, I've done a lot of Ayurvedic medicine studies, and with garlic, you really want to make sure you use garlic with purpose and for a short amount of time. We don't add a lot of garlic into like enough in a staple in our diet to really do harm, but garlic is a very powerful. So, just like if you had a quick cold, oh my gosh, take some oregano oil, some garlic, and some lemon juice and knock your butt on the floor, and you will be almost instantaneously, you will feel better. But you want to make sure you just keep that at, short-term sort of medicinal care. So back to the gastrointestinal tract, our gut acts as a barrier, just like our skin, but it also absorbs. So, just remember that as the food's going through, not only is the food being absorbed, but toxins and other things, especially if we're constipated, right? Now we have that stuff being reabsorbed back into the body. So, oh my gosh, talk about cellular, cellular sloughing, right? Now we're talking about toxins that we're being exposed to. Now we're talking about, even reabsorbing these toxins. Isn't that insane, guys? That we can even just become over detoxified because of these things. It doesn't take a lot either, right? So how can we support the system? Well, we went over a lot. We really have went over quite a bit of stuff to do. So even though this chemical soup of a world, right, that we're living in is crazy, what type of hazmat suit is going to be best for us? And I wanted to leave it open because I'm sure we'll get a lot of questions about, detoxification. And I really wanted to leave more room open to talk about, that couple more minutes just to have some questions for you guys, because it's such a trend. And, when we're talking about detoxification, it really shouldn't be. Detoxing is, just something naturally that we hope, right, that our body continuously does by itself, right? Because at the end of the day, there are certain things, for example, for 8 years, I worked with oncology. And so, we always have to think about how can we get our body to flow properly? How can we make sure that all of the cells that need to exit the body are exiting, right? What if certain cells get stuck in other areas of the body? Does that potentially cause harm? Things like that, which it does. So, eating properly, it's not just something to say or think, it's something to actually think and use food as a guide. There's a quote, one of my favorite quotes, the food you eat can either be the safest and most powerful form of medicine or, the slowest form of poison. So we want to keep our body moving, keep our blood moving. And that's really what, in my mind, detoxing is really about, not just doing whatever I want and thinking that, I have that 2-day grace period, especially when we're mature, or right, as far as aging. So just remember that, balance is going to be key. And just moving every day, sweating, right? Looking at our BM movements, looking at our urine. Is our urine clear? That's not a good sign. We should definitely be seeing, like our urine holds dead blood cells and white blood cells, dead white blood cells, and our fecal matter holds red blood cells and bile. So, what are we seeing when we look at these tools that we've been given to kind of give a glimpse? But I really appreciate you guys, and thank you for letting me share today for Detox 101.
Thank you, Angela. I think we had one question in the chat.
Yeah.
The question is, did you mention that it's possible to detoxify your liver due to too many supplements, etc.? And can you talk more about that and how you know if you're over detoxifying?
Okay, so, well, I don't know if there's a way initially to tell like an acute, like if we were talking about like acute versus chronic. Now, what would really be another way to put it is an active gallbladder, okay? Because if the gallbladder is opening, then we know that phase 3, right, our liver's moving. So really it's all about the gallbladder. Is he clogged? Is the gallbladder opening properly? So that could be a way to tell. If you were there's this drink that absolutely, it's a wellness shot. And I love it. There are tons of studies on it. It's an ounce of olive oil. Make sure it's real. It's an ounce of lemon juice. And I put Celtic sea salt. Celtic sea salt is amazing, but it has reoccurring real magnesium. And I take this little drink and I shoot it back every morning, first thing in the morning. Why? Great for protecting and supporting the liver, great for opening the gallbladder. So I mentioned this wellness shot because sometimes if we're overactive in opening our gallbladder, we can see an overactive bowel movement. It can kind of look like yogurt. So if you are trying to do a lot of detoxing, right? And you're going through whether it's a juice cleanse or, and you're seeing that, but you're seeing a little bit too much, then dial it back a little bit, add some fiber, right? We were talking earlier about balance. So, it's more of a question of, am I shocking my organ? I think it's great if people do juice cleanses. I'm a huge fan of that. I won't get into the soluble part of it today for that debate, but it's better than not, right? So you got to like meet yourself where you're at. But, bring in fiber, bring in protein, because you have to remember your body is a gatekeeper of many different things. We need 24 amino acid profiles. 9 of those we only get from, they're essential. We only get from food. We need over 102 minerals that we know of. So when it comes to overactive liver, look for those signs. Watery or yogurty type of stool, it is just constantly wiping. You want to watch for that as well. So that's going to be number one huge sign. Also, you'll smell it. So when I have had patients in the past do that olive oil drink, I always tell them the first week, you're going to smell bile. It's going to smell like vomit. Because you are over activating, you are opening it more importantly. So it's a good sign. So that's another way. So if you've had over 4 bowel movements that may smell like bile and it's strong, then yeah, I would kind of taper off because you don't want to make too much bile. So when you're thinking about detoxing, don't think about shocking the system, right? There isn't really a way to shock it, if you will. You want to think about healing it, right? Because we're taking, let's just use 30 years, 40 years, right? So now we're in our 40s, we want to detox. we can't just think that that one shock will, solve all the problems. It's definitely more of a daily process of movement and slow movement, right? Because if you create any wounds or anything that can create harm inside, then now we have to worry about healing that, right? So when it comes to the liver, focus on fiber. Don't always focus on the juices. Your pancreas loves broths, things like that. But for the liver really likes fiber a lot. Just make sure you are drinking enough, fluids when you do that, because fiber moves. But if you are cellular dehydrated, then the fiber is actually going to pull from your body. It's going to pull that water instead of like giving you water in a sense, and it will create a hard stool, which is never fun. Trust me. Did that answer your question, or did you have?
Thank you for that response. I think it was really thorough. Yes, she said yes. Thank you. Thanks.
Cool. I try to be. The body's a lot, and I don't want to just tell people, hey, don't eat sugar. We all know that. It's like, why? So I try to be a little thorough so people get it. Like, so now that you're aware, you always remember that, moving forward.
Absolutely. We have another question. Josh, do you want to come on and ask your question?
Yeah, my question is, so I eat a whole food plant-based diet. I probably don't exercise and sweat enough. But one habit that I had until very recently was I ate a massive amount of dark chocolate. It was my one vice. I ate tons of it. I ate the fair trade organic stuff. I thought that was kind of a good thing. And then I recently learned that actually a lot of that super dark fair trade organic chocolate is heavily contaminated with heavy metals, with cadmium and lead. And so I'm kind of concerned now that maybe I've contaminated myself unknowingly with a whole bunch of heavy metals. And I'm wondering, should I go get tested to see how much I'm carrying? And will I be able to even detox it through these kind of, everything that you talked about today through just, good diet and exercise, etc.? Or is there something more needed to get heavy metals out of the body? And I have a lot of arthritis, and I've been learning recently that heavy metals can contribute to osteoarthritis. There's connections. So anyway, that's my question. Can I detox this stuff through the stuff you were talking about, or is there something kind of more intensive needed to get things like cadmium and lead out of the body?
Yeah. So one thing that could or could not be true, you'll have to get tested. Sometimes when we crave chocolate, our body's lacking magnesium. There are certain things that aren't always set in stone, but it is kind of interesting that certain things I'll see on people or express, and they all kind of have that. So definitely get your magnesium checked. Going back to the arthritis question really quickly too. So people with arthritis, it's really funny because if we didn't eat, we wouldn't have any issues. I always have that joke. But so, arthritis is generally an enzyme issue as well. It is triggered by food, but science is finding out it could be potentially an enzyme that is supposed to go in and clean the area, but somehow he gets stuck in our knuckles or stuck in our joints and decides to eat. And that's what enzymes do, they eat. So, with arthritis, that's such a touchy subject, but going back to the chocolate, I would get tested, and there are things that you can, along with your magnesium, and it may not always show up. I'm not a blood panel specialist, but your body actually will turn different molecules into other molecules because that molecule was needed more, right? So you have to keep that in mind if your magnesium levels are low, even if they're in the normal range, you know. So what if you wanted a mineral drink, right? What I do is I get Celtic sea salt and I get a gray rock. It's called gray rock. It's a granule form. And I put 1/4 of a teaspoon in 32 ounces of water. If you exercise and you don't eat a lot of processed food, you can also add honey, real honey, but don't do more than a tablespoon. And I wouldn't do more than half a tablespoon. Honey is great. It's got tons of vitamins and minerals, but it's also got 28 grams of sugar for a tablespoon. And then, so now we have the minerals taken care of for you. If you choose to do that, I like Celtic salt because it has reoccurring magnesium. Okay. So that's why I mentioned that specific salt. Now, certain things you can do to detox naturally. You don't have to go buy chlorella. In fact, most chlorella is unstable. So you're going to be buying something called chlorophyll anyway. Scientifically studied, yes. Is it more shelf stable? Yes. You can juice. You can make things like, oh my gosh, cilantro lemonade. I mean, I love cilantro, okay? But treat Google like your best friend. You know, if you like cilantro, oh my gosh, just like there's this amazing sauce you can use on anything, salads. I know you said yourself was a vegetarian, but for people that aren't, you know, on top of your chicken, but cilantro, garlic, you put a handful of cilantro, 1 garlic, olive oil, salt and pepper, and you can just put that in the NutriBullet, and now you've got a sauce. So detoxing, it doesn't have to be this like thing, right? It can be incorporated in what you eat every day and have you feel like you're eating a 5-star meal. Think about, you know, you're vegetarian, right? So think about you come home, you know, you're like, I don't like cilantro, and fine, use parsley, you know, take that parsley, you know, you don't even have to chop it up. You just throw it in the NutriBullet after you clean it, you know, the garlic, the olive oil, and you can make those sauces. You can make those drinks because they're good for you, right? The cilantro lemonade is amazing. So think about it that way too. It doesn't have to be this, I'm going on a juice cleanse for 2 days. It could be, oh, I'm incorporating, you know, this, right? And again, you can look up absolutely any type of drink you want. You can look things up as a mocktail and come up with some like really fun, funky drinks. Because I know sometimes, depending on what you type in, you know, you get what you get back. But if you typed in, you know, we're talking about detoxing. If you guys like beet juice has tons of nitric oxide, and it's great for blood. So, and there have been tons of studies. So we don't even have to talk about grains, right? We could talk about beets. Beet juice, you could slice up beets and then marinate them in lime juice with sprinkled, I'll use sea salt for that one, and cayenne pepper. Oh, it's so good. So, you know, and I bring these things up because these things are detoxing, right? But I'm eating something amazing, something flavorful, colorful, that is already just giving my body nourishment. You know, I'm mentioning these things because I'm not going out of my way to create this environment of detox. You know, it's a lifestyle. So now in that lifestyle, I'm waking up every day. Wow, I'm excited. I'm going to have this smoothie. Or, oh my God, I made chia seed overnight oats with lemon meringue, which is amazing. It's like 3 ingredients, you guys. So now I just had this complete protein, you know, fiber, and just 1 tablespoon of chia seed. We have 4 grams of fiber, 10 grams of, 4 grams of protein, 10 grams of fiber, you know, so, you know, it's like the excitement of self-care, really. So like, I'm a foodie. So when, I get excited. So I have to get off that train, because I'll keep riding on it. But, think about it more as in, how can I eat this wonderful meal and have it give to me? It doesn't have to be that juice, juice for the weekend. Do we have any other questions?
There was one more, because I think we just have a couple more minutes. How do external detoxes affect the liver? For example, detox foot baths, infrared light, saunas, things like that.
Okay. Okay, well, the sun is always going to be good. And the sauna is one way for you to kind of tell if your liver is actually doing all right. Because if you can't stand the heat, that is a potential indicator that, because your liver doesn't like heat. So if you're in the sauna for 5 minutes and you're about to blow your lid, that could be a potential sign that something's a little sluggish in there. So one thing that you can do for liver health, now it's not the end all be all, right? But your liver, live right, is underneath your right rib cage. So if you took your fingers, I don't know if you guys can see me because I'm sharing my screen, but if you took the tip of your fingers on your right hand and you checked at where the rib cage goes up. So from your sternum to the bottom, right? It goes up into this little corner in the middle. You can take your fingers and go up underneath the rib cage, and your liver's right there. And you can massage the liver. Now, if he feels swollen or you can't get your fingers up in there, that could be a potential sign that the liver is not moving properly. So, those could be indicators when you go do these things. But any sort of movement for the liver is going to be great. When you go to the doctor, hopefully you have not, but if you've ever been in the doctor or have had a friend say, oh my gosh, my enzymes are high, and the doctor is worried, it's because the liver isn't moving. So, do these things, may they be uncomfortable at first? Oh yeah. You know what I mean? You never saw someone just get up off their couch and start running and do a 20K or whatever, right? They'll start by running around their house. They'll start by running to the street corner. So do some people throw up? Absolutely, right? Could it be aggravating the liver? 100%. But that doesn't mean you stop it, right? That just means that you're starting to get everything moving again. And that's a really good, it doesn't feel like it at the time, but that's a really good sensation. You've got to get that stuff out. And it's just kind of like, think about it this way. When you're going and doing this stuff and feeling uncomfortable, that's where the magic happens. Because when you're not exercising, when you're not sweating, these toxins are now sitting in every single cell of my body. So now when I go move, or now when I go sit in the sauna, now I'm aggravating my cells because they're starting to sweat, right? They're starting to move. I'm creating friction in the body. Well, those toxins are like drinking. If I drink too much, right, I'll throw up, I'll have diarrhea. It's the same thing. Now all these toxins are going into the body. They're not being stored in the cell anymore. So when you start to do this, whether it's juicing for a weekend or whether it is trying to sit in the sauna for more than 10 minutes, you're going to experience some uncomfortability. Just like going back to, the possible, if you want to open your gallbladder, and get the liver moving a little bit quicker with that drink. Are you going to see some stuff? Absolutely. You just work through it, dial it back a little bit. One of my specialties is I specialize in behavior modification. So just remember, when you're doing these detoxes or you're trying to add something into your lifestyle, right? It's okay to feel uncomfortable. Now, if it's too much, and I'll use diarrhea as an example, because that's pretty serious, right? If you're having diarrhea for 3 days, that is very unhealthy. It's shocking to the body, and it's extraordinarily dehydrating, then one must look at their actions and say, maybe I shouldn't take that every day. Maybe I should try to have a day of rest and then do it every other day, right? So just remember that throughout your journey of health and self-care, you can always change it, right? It doesn't have to be regimented in a certain way. So it's okay to be uncomfortable, and sauna, breathing exercises, just moving in general is going to be the way to go. Yeah, any of that stuff.
Thanks, Angela. One more question. Is Celtic sea salt better than Himalayan sea salt for magnesium?
Okay, so yes. Okay, so what's up with all the salts? I'm not talking about iodinized salt, and I want to make that clear. We're talking about real salt. What is iodinized salt? Imagine I'm a huge salt company, and I go into the ocean and I extract a whole bunch of salt, which is what they do. And then I come in, because I'm a cheaper salt company, I only take, sodium chloride and another compound off the top of that. And that's what iodinized salt is. So, we're looking at real salt versus iodinized, it's real, it's minerals. We're not chemically stripping it. Or we're not only taking certain parts of the compounds that make up salt, right? So Celtic sea salt in its natural form, you'll notice that it's moist, and you'll wonder, why is it aqueous? Magnesium loves water. Magnesium does 300 things in the body. But one of those things is to allow the cell to uptake water. Why is that? Because all of our cells have phospholipid biolayers. Those biolayers are aquaphobic. So magnesium closes, it's like, imagine a little head with two little legs. And the magnesium kind of comes in and it relaxes the little legs, if you will, and it allows water to go into the cell. So the reason I bring up Celtic salt over something like, sea salt or pink Himalayan salt is because they aren't wet when they are in natural granule form. They are dry. So do they still have 92 or 94 trace minerals in them? Yes. Out of the 102 we need, great. You could do pink Himalayan. So if you wanted to start out and you're on a budget, you can do that. That's no worries. But the reason I pick Celtic salt specifically is because when you buy it in gray rock form, which is the most unprocessed, it is wet because of the magnesium. And you won't find that in any other granule type form, even though all of them have other beneficial qualities. Celtic is my favorite for that specific reason.
Thank you, Angela. And lastly, where do you get the lemon meringue?
You make it. You didn't want to hear that, I'm sure. I felt it in my heart. No. You know what, guys? And that's what kind of like, I think everyone in the back of their mind, even my mind, right? I've been doing this for a very long time to prepare all this food or to prepare this or whatever. I'm going to give you some tips really quick. You want to do that lemon meringue chia, look it up online, look up lemon chia pudding. You'll be surprised. It's like 4 or 5 ingredients. At least give yourself the chance to look up the recipe. This is intimidating, you guys. It's a lifestyle. And in a world full of trends, it makes it very difficult. And then everyone gets excited. They want to be healthy. They go buy $80, $120 worth of vegetables and they get home. And then a week later, they're throwing it away, right? So what can we do to have this healthy lifestyle? What can we do to prepare and detox? Just that, prepare. Do you want to juice for a weekend? Maybe Friday night you do 2 juices. Maybe Saturday morning you do the other juices. maybe Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you juice what you're going to drink for that whole day. It doesn't have to be in one sitting, right? You don't have to go out and buy 8 vegetables. What do you want to do for the next 3 days? And I know it sounds so simple and so stupid, but you know, I do have a degree in doing the stuff people don't want to do, making those lists, behavior modification. You know, so, you know, the biggest takeaway I hope that you get from this class is, you know, be kind and balanced, right? The body is not just to be shifted one way and shifted another, right? That's what got us into this mess in the first place. And then more importantly, what can I make for today? Maybe I will make one of those chia seed pudding things, right? Just one. Oh, that's all you got to do. Maybe you end up making some for 3 mornings. Oh my gosh, now you have a nice, healthy, detoxing, right? Breakfast. You know, dial it back. What can I do today? All right. I know it sounds corny, like one day at a time, but it's so true. And I have to do the same thing too. You know, I am only an expert because I choose to live my life this way, right? I chose to go to school. You guys are doing the same thing. You know, instead of me just getting frustrated and going into remission or going into like remission instead of recession, right? Is the fact that I want to keep doing it. So, you know, dial it back. Think of 2 meals that you can bring into your food plan. Don't buy any more than 4 vegetables and like three fruits, or vice versa, whatever. You know, but when it comes to this detoxing thing, you know, you can do the Celtic mineral drink. You know, look it up. Look up homemade electrolyte recipe. Don't use agave, please. Please stick with honey. But look up just these little things. Get yourself excited. It doesn't have to be that weekend juice. You may look up an electrolyte drink, and it may zap you. But I mean, seriously, and that drink may have had something that energizes you. And now you get excited and you have more energy to further what you need to do during the day. So you're not just looking for that one quick fix, if you will, because it's really about the quality of our life, right? So, you know, definitely think about that when you want to add a detox, you know, to your daily routine.
Thank you so much, Angela.
You're welcome.
We're at time. I bet we could go on and on. There's so much great information and resources you've shared. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you to all our participants for being here today. I'm going to pop in the chat a link to a brief survey. Just let us know how you enjoyed this session. And again, as we mentioned at the beginning, this video will be recorded and we'll send it out to you. And we will also post it on the Bauman Wellness YouTube channel. And we offer these Friday Lunch and Learns every week, a couple times a month, very, very frequently. So here's the link right here. Please join us next time. And lastly, if you have not joined our Bauman Wellness community, there's some information in the chat about that as well. So thank you so much again, Angela. I really, really appreciate it. This was so informative.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. We'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.